Now, after all the FA Cup chaos, in today's video, we're going to be running through my team selection ahead of Game Week 28, and of course, my transfer plans ahead of blank Game Week 29. Now, before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 12,500 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is only possible with your guys' amazing help. As you can see on screen, this is my team from Game Week 27. It was overall a pretty okay-ish week. We got a pretty small green arrow. We're now just outside of the top 10k. We're about 10.6, something like that, which is ridiculous considering where we were at the start of the season. I'm going to flash it up on screen right now. Look at this incredible run that we have gone from about 5 million all the way to the top 10k. It is absolutely ridiculous. Hollywood should be making a movie about me. The kind of the comeback that we've had this season, and hopefully we can continue break into that top 10k, and I definitely think it is a possible outcome, to be honest. Obviously, it was a really good week. Visser with 9 points. We got the captaincy decision right as well with Mohamed Salah. Cliver as well with his screamer. Absolutely wonderful. And of course, Trent. It was very unfortunate that we missed out on, of course, those extra bonus points from Trent. But I'm not going to grudge the game too much. I kind of understand how it all works. Of course, we did get the decision wrong to play Aina ahead of Højsund or Munoz, which is a little bit disappointing. But at the end of the day, I think we still came out ahead. We still got ourselves a green arrow, and that is what it's about, especially in these latter stages, considering the position we're in. Every single week, if we can get a green arrow, who knows where we could finish up this season. Let's go ahead then, and let's look at some data heading into this game week, and of course, potential transfer targets for my team, and of course, for Game Week 29. So let's start off first with the goals and clean sheet odds from Fantasy Football Hub. Of course, I usually use the Rob T FPL ones. However, they aren't out now, but I would highly recommend going and checking his Twitter out as well, because they are really useful for, of course, benching decisions, potential captaincy decisions, all that good stuff. Rob is the man to get you covered. But we're going to use the Fantasy Football Hub ones today. As you can see, the big fixtures this week are, of course, going to be Liverpool. I think, they could absolutely go off nuclear. The only thing that I think could throw people off is, of course, there is PSG either side of this fixture. Now, of course, I am filming this before the PSG-Liverpool game has taken place. And if Liverpool don't get a positive result out of that one and then have to, go again at home, there could be some risk of rotation. I don't think Salah will probably be one of the players that will suffer from rotation, but I'm thinking maybe if you've got yourself a Diaz, you've got a Trent, these could be the players that could potentially sit out of this Southampton game. So it is a little bit of a worry, but I still think the clear and obvious captain is going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. However, as you can see, Chelsea against Leicester is also going to be a really good fixture. Fancy for projected goals, of course, the people that went with Cole Palmer last week are extremely unfortunate, in my opinion. The guy should have had a hat-trick. There's no way of looking past it. To get over 1 goal involvement in a game and come away with 0 attacking returns is just unfortunate. This could be the week, though, where he does pull it back. A good home fixture against Leicester. One of the worst sides for XG conceded in the league. So definitely, an appealing fixture. In terms of the other ones, I think it could be really difficult to call, really. I think Palace are probably going to be the favourites heading into that Ipswich game, but with no Mateta, probably going to be lacking a little bit of kind of striker power. And then all the other fixtures, I really think could potentially go either way. Villa's usually post-Champions League form as well is absolutely abysmal. They've only had 1 win post-Champions League this season, and I think that was against like Southampton as well. So it wasn't even like an easy team to... it was an easy team to go and beat post-Champions League as well. So I think if you've got the Brentford boys, I'd feel quite comfortable playing them. Maybe want to suggest benching Rodgers this week as well, if you are thinking about it. His post-Champions League form as well is usually absolutely dismal. Heading in then to potentially some transfer targets with my team and, of course, other people's teams over the next few weeks. We've kind of run through this strikers list in a few videos, but I know it's going to be a hot topic with, of course, people looking at Cunha and, of course, Mateta replacements heading into Game Week 28. My top one is going to be Haaland. Now, it might not be possible to get him in this week, and that's the case with my team. I'm going to have to sell Palmer, and I would recommend keeping Palmer for this week against Leicester, then looking at him in Game Week 29, Game Week 30, where I do think both weeks he probably is going to be the best captaincy option for those weeks. Home fixtures, 29 as well. We're now Cunha-less heading into that week. I think that makes Haaland the best captain for that game week. Now, Mamamouche, I hope I pronounced it correctly this time. Mamamouche we're going to go with. I don't think we'll cover off Erling Haaland. I know he's been bought in by a lot of FPL managers, but I just don't think he's at the same level. His goal involvements post-hat-trick have been non-existent. His expected goal numbers, considering he's actually not played that many 90 minutes, aren't that good. If you consider where Wissa was when he first started playing games after his injury, his expected goal involvement numbers were through the roof. His aren't. They're quite low, so I'm just not going to go for that one. My top replacements for, of course, Cunha and for Mateta are going to be Wood and Visser. I prefer Chris Wood, but I know quite a lot of us have already got him, so second would either be a gamble on Visser or maybe taking a look at Strand Larsen purely for the fixtures, Evan Nielsen, but the minutes are a big risk, and Beto, who is a purple patch player, but of course the game week 30 fixture isn't ideal, especially if you need him to play in that week. But if you don't, he could be worth a punt with Wolves and West Ham in game week 28 and game week 29. Like I said, in that purple patch at the moment, he's playing consistent 90 minutes as well, so could be a decent option to take a punt on. But like I said, my top ones are going to be Wood and are going to be Visser. Of course, Wood with the penalties, 90-minute man, Forest talisman this season, isn't he? I know he's massively overperforming on his data, but even still, with that Ipswich fixture, if you can't get to Haaland, probably going to be a decent alternative in terms of captain for that week. And then Visser, I don't like the fixtures in 29 or 30. However, he's just a monster at the moment. The data that he's putting up is absolutely ridiculous per 90, so definitely a really good option if you are in the market for a striker. Obviously, we saw with my team as well, I do have Lewis Hall kicking about, and he is a player that I'm going to have to look to replace over either this week or next week. And there are two potential targets that I've identified, and it is going to be Gvardiol or Ait Nouri. Which way do I go with it? Do I go with Gvardiol, who's obviously the more premium asset, playing for the bigger club, or do I gamble and go with the fixtures for Wolves, who haven't been great? They haven't been great recently. And his data as well isn't really screaming out to me that I should definitely invest in him. But we all know what this man is capable of on his day, and he's one of those players that could go off very big indeed. But I do think I'm slightly leaning more towards Gvardiol. No Champions League football for Manchester City. He's probably going to be starting every single week. Still one of the top defenders for goals scored this season within the Premier League. Of course, they then get that great fixture in game week 30 with Leicester. And I feel like he's going to be a really popular asset on the game week 31 wildcard as well, with, of course, City having potentially 2 double game weeks in 33 and 36. That, for me, I want to get in nice and early on the ground floor. Same with Erling Haaland in that aspect, because I feel if, people are seeing the double game weeks coming up, they've got good fixtures leading into that, then I think people will be looking at that going, right, it's time to invest back into the City assets. Their value will start to decrease. So I want to get in at the ground floor level, get as many price rises out of them, because, it's going to help us out further down the line as well. And I just feel like they're going to be assets that people are desiring a little bit later on in this season. So to get in early, get as many price rises as possible, probably going to be the play that I'm going to go with. But let me know which way you would go in the comments section. And then finishing up before we head into the team selection, it is of course going to be the predicted points for game week 28 from Fantasy Football Hub. Of course, if you want to go and check out their amazing website, there is a link in the description. Salah is top of this, and yeah, I think Salah's going to be my captain for this game week, unless we get some sort of inclination from Slot that Salah is not even going to be available through injury or suspension or whatever happens in the Champions League game, or whether or not he's going to rotate. That might be the other thing that puts me off and maybe switches me towards Cole Palmer. But for right now, I just think it's a pretty easy decision. Go with Mohamed Salah, the worst team in the league. Even if he probably comes off the bench or gets 65 minutes, the guy's still going to go and score, I would say, at least 1 goal. Probably get 2 attacking returns out of this game as a bare minimum. So I think it's a pretty easy decision for me this week in terms of captaincy. Go for Mohamed Salah. Okay, wasting no time, let's dive into the team selection itself for game week 28. Starting off first with our goalkeepers and defenders. Of course, we're going to go for Pickford. I'm not going to play Fabianski considering he's been dropped. decent fixture against Wolves. I would be hopeful that, you know, Everton should have a decent probability of keeping a clean sheet in this fixture as well. Moving into the back line, we've got Munoz, Huijsen and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Of course, Trent and Munoz really, really self-explanatory, especially considering their recent run of performances as well. So I'm very, very happy to have both of those guys within the team. Huijsen, I would ideally probably like to have played Lewis Hall, but with him being a doubt for the game, and unless we get any sort of confirmation that he's going to be fit and available, I am probably going to just stick him in. We could also go for Ola Aina as well. I think, you know, City could maybe lose at Nottingham Forest, considering how good a season Forest are having. But I don't know. Forest then went and played 120 minutes last night in the FA Cup. So yeah, I think it could be a 50-50 split. We might have to wait and see what the betting markets are saying in terms of clean sheet odds, and that might be where my head does go in terms of that. Obviously, as well, we could make that transfer. We could bring in Ait-Nouri for Lewis Hall and obviously play him in there, but I don't think we're going to do it this week. I think we will rather roll and take as many transfers as possible into game week 29. Moving into our midfield then, obviously, as you can see, Cole Palmer, second on the predicted points list. He's going to be our vice captain, ready to take the captaincy armband if, of course, Mohamed Salah isn't available for the Southampton game or there's any sort of inclination that he might be dropped. But probably going to be Palmer's last week within the team, as you'll see in a few seconds when we, of course, look to blank game week 29. And I don't think we'll probably own him again, considering Chelsea don't have any double game weeks coming up. Maybe in the blank, but other than that, I think this could be the end of Cole Palmer. So hopefully he ends it in style. Obviously, I've spoke about Aston Villa's poor record post-UCL, so I'm feeling quite bullish on Brentford this week. Of course, we've got Brian Mbeumo and Johan Visser, who you'll see in a second. Mbeumo's numbers have dropped off. They definitely have tailed off, and I do think Visser and Schade are more beneficiary when Brentford play their more attacking 4-3-3 system. It's usually Visser or, like I said, Schade that usually get the opportunities, and Mbeumo's kind of usually just kind of sat outside the box a little bit wide, which is a little bit frustrating. But we're not going to remove a player that has a fixture in 29 on penalties, playing 90 minutes. He'll be one to deal with when we do, of course, wildcard in game week 31. Mohamed Salah, captaincy, top for the predicted points. Easy, done. Kluivert, Spurs defensively, shocking. XG conceded, absolutely abysmal this season. Again, penalty taker, so that's why he starts ahead of Morgan Rogers. Also, I've spoke about Rogers' poor UCL record as well. I think it's only one attacking return post-UCL game, so there's a real big drop-off, not only in terms of Aston Villa as a side, but also for Morgan Rogers himself. So Kluivert does get the nod there. Moving into the front three, it's going to be Isak, Visser, and Chris Wood. Obviously, we're still waiting for confirmation that Isak is definitely fit and available for this game week, but I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be. Very high up on those predicted points list as well. So again, happy to have him, but it could be the last week we have him until we wildcard in game week 31 to, of course, go and get Erling Haaland in the side. Visser again. You saw with the strikers, 0.67 expected goal involvement per 90 is an absolute joke for a player. The amount of goals, the amount of goal involvements he's just got this season in general has been astounding. Brentford, we all know what their home record's like, is very, very decent. At points this season, they've been one of the best attacking sides in Europe at home in terms of goal involvement. And again, like I said, Villa's post-Champions League record, I'm banking on it with double Brentford. Chris Wood, not the best fixture against City, but they are at home. You never know what could happen with a penalty taker. They get one, they get lucky. He could come away with a mega haul. He blanked last week, so it definitely would not surprise me to see him back scoring again this week. In terms of how the team is going to be lining up for next week then, obviously I covered this in my transfer target section, but these are the moves that I am planning. So we'd bring in Gabriel, Gvardiol, Elanga and Haaland. We drop, of course, Isak, Palmer, who else would we drop here? Hall and Trent, and this is how we'd pretty much line up heading into that blank game week. Of course, I don't want to use my free hit. I'd rather use it in game week 34. The bench, of course, wouldn't have any cover, but I feel like most people's benches, if they're not free hitting, are going to look like this anyway. It will require me to do a -4 this week, but I feel like a lot of people will be playing minuses ahead of game week 29, so I don't think I'll be too stung by that. Heading into game week 30 then, as you can see, the team's looking pretty decent, to be honest. Of course, Mohamed Salah would come straight back in. We'd probably then have Munoz coming in as well. And I think that's probably how we would line up, to be honest. Maybe I guess it'd be a toss-up between Rogers, Visser and Elanga. who would start there. But of course, we do have a transfer available if we wanted to take Anthony Elanga out. But yeah, I probably would chuck either Rodgers or Visser. We'd probably go Rodgers, just like that. Then, of course, game week 31, if we wanted to delay the wildcard, or for whatever reason didn't have enough information regarding FA Cup ties, I feel that's a pretty standard team, to be honest, to be heading into that week. Of course, we'd switch the captaincy to Mohamed Salah with Fulham away, but I think the team could definitely get by if we wanted to delay it for one more week, whether or not we had that information available to us. But yeah, I definitely think we'll be fine heading into, obviously, the future game weeks coming up. And I feel this is the plan going to be, and of course, wildcard in game week 31 to target the doubles in 32 and of course in 33. Let me know what you think of my team selection down in the comments below. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team, get them in, as we'll try to answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 28.